These are the top 6 methods to get a scholarship offer from your dream school. So this video is specifically about getting interest when you have a particular school that you are very interested in. And that school might be even a little bit of a reach school, right? A school that is a little bit out of your talent capability, or it might be hard to get in contact with them. And so I want to talk about some more advanced ways that we can generate interest from a very specific school like that, rather than going out and generating a lot of interest, which obviously we talk about pretty extensively. But I also want to talk about more of like a sniper strategy. Like, you want to get one specific coach interested or one specific school. How do you do that? So in order to get an offer from your kid's dream school, you must increase the coach's perceived value of your kid. That means that we need that coach to think of your kid in such a high regard that it's no longer the school that is your dream school, but rather that school views your kid as like their dream kid or their dream recruit, right? That they're like, man, we really need that player. That's where we want to get to. So the 6 ways that we're going to do this, and I'm going to just say what they are, and then I'm going to dive into each one more specifically. So generate interest from other schools for instant validation, personalize follow-up emails and convos, specific video related to what they mentioned you should work on, go dark periods to give them a chance to miss you, drip out contextual information over time, and don't tell the coach that it's your dream school. Okay, so we're going to walk through these 6 ways. And so hopefully you are able to get in contact with the school that you are most excited about. Okay. So the first way, generate interest from other schools for instant validation. Now, once you are talking to a school of any kind, right? Obviously, you have to turn that interest into a scholarship offer, and that can be really challenging to do. And so one of the questions that a coach is going to ask you is they're probably going to say, hey, what other schools are they talking to? Are you talking to? And they're trying to get a gauge for how competitive it's going to be to recruit you, right? Now, what happens is if you answer this question with none, right? You say, hey, I'm not really talking to anyone else. Then the coach is going to wonder, well, why not? Because if you were a really good player, wouldn't you be talking to a bunch of schools? Wouldn't all these coaches be really interested in you? And so they're going to say, well, why not? And then they're going to start to wonder, well, what's wrong with this player, right? Why do they not have a bunch of interest? If they were a good player, then they would. And that's going to instill in them doubt, right? And that's going to make it really, really hard for you to build that relationship from there and turn that interest into a scholarship offer. And so instead, imagine that when they ask you, what other schools are you talking to, you're able to list off 10 other schools, right? You're like, I'm talking to this school and this school and this school. Oh, I forgot to tell you about this school and this school. And you're like, I can't even list them all. I'm sorry. I have too many schools interested in me. That's where you want to be. And this is why it's actually critical that you reach out to a wide variety of schools, even schools that your kid is not necessarily super interested in, because you're still going to be able to use those schools as leverage to get the schools that you're really interested in over the finish line, right? And so it's critical that we generate as much interest as possible. And so this is going to give us instant validation, right? When you start listing off schools and your kid's like, oh, I'm talking to all of these, it's going to give instant validation. And your dream school is going to be like, okay, cool. This is a player worth talking to, and your kid's stock skyrockets, right? And now, instead of having doubt, your dream school coach has confidence, right? They're like, this is definitely a player that I should be talking to. And instantly, they're going to open up more of your emails. They're going to call you more often. They're going to watch more of your videos simply because your kid's stock is higher than it would have been if they didn't have any interest at all. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing here is you want to personalize follow-up emails and conversations. Now, here's what's crazy is that in the first email, like the initial email that you send out to college coaches, personalization actually doesn't matter. And I know that a lot of people talk about it and they're like, it's really important that you do this. And to be honest, I used to be that person too. I used to say that as well. But the fact of the matter is that we have sent tens of thousands of emails to college coaches, and I can tell you that the data shows that it does not matter. In that first email, college coaches are just looking for the video, and so it doesn't matter if you personalize that email or not. Now, what does matter is personalizing it in follow-ups. The follow-up conversations that you have with college coaches, Personalizations there can mean a lot and they can be really valuable. So for instance, in a follow-up, you might say something like, hey, saw you had a great game against some team last weekend. Like, hey, saw you guys played great against Vanderbilt last weekend. That's awesome, right? And all this is doing is showing that you are paying attention. You're showing that you're watching what's going on, right? And really what's happening here is you want it to be like you are evaluating the school. You're not watching them like a hawk because it's like, oh my gosh, this is my dream school. No, you're evaluating them. You're like, hey, I'm watching what's going on here. I'm seeing that you guys are losing to other teams in your conference. What's going on? Hey, I'm seeing that you're winning games. Okay, cool. How can we continue that, right? And so it is like you are evaluating the school as well. And so in any follow-ups that you have with the coach, you should definitely personalize those. So again, you don't need to personalize the initial email. It's not going to matter, but the personalization and follow-ups does make a huge difference. Okay. Third way that we do this, a specific video or videos related to what a coach mentions you should work on. So let me give you an example here, okay? Let's say that you go to a showcase and that school, your dream school, is there. And when you're there, the coach talks to your kid goes up, introduces himself, and the coach says, hey, you look great, but I would love you to work on this one specific thing, right? Now, sometimes they also might say this in response to an email and after watching your video, but a lot of times it happens at an in-person event. And so let's say one of those things happens. So essentially, what's going on here is that there's all of these skills, right? Each one of these is a skill that your kid needs to showcase, right? And the coach says, yep, they do this one really well, and this one, and this one, and this one, but these three right here, they don't do them that well. Right? They're talking about your kid. And so they tell your kid, hey, these right here, we need you to work on these. We need you to be better about those. Okay, your job now is to get video performing the skill that they said that you needed to work on, right? And so specifically, right, we already said this. They're going to say, hey, saw you were great at all of these things right here, but it looked like you struggled with these three right here. Right? And so your job is to get video of your kid absolutely smashing these three skills that they say you're not good at, right? Like if you're a football player and they're like, hey, it looks like you're really great at running your short routes, but you struggle on the deep routes, then you should get video of running deep routes. If you are a baseball player, right, and you're a middle infielder and they're like, hey, it looks like your double play turns are pretty slow, then you got to go get video of turning double plays. If you're a soccer player, right, and it's like, hey, your corner kicks looked really good, but it looked like you struggled dribbling the ball, right? Like you had bad ball possession. Okay, then go get video of you smashing ball possession and doing it really well. And your goal is to essentially remove all of that doubt that they had about you performing that skill. Now, ideally, you want at least 5 videos because that's going to be enough that you are performing that skill really well, enough to get over that confidence hump. But even if it's just a couple videos, that's better than nothing. So go get that video and then send it to the coach and prove that there's no longer a gap in that skill, that you have filled that gap. And so now, instead of these being, X's, these are check marks. You've done this. And now the coach is like, dang, I've kind of seen everything that I need to see from that player. And so this is how you're going to get your dream school interested, is because you keep checking off all the things that they need to see from you so that eventually there's no reason for them to not give you a scholarship. Now, fourth way, go dark periods to give them a chance to miss you. So here's the deal. When you are communicating with a coach, right, you get in contact with them, you're like, wow, I got in contact with my dream school, but they haven't given me an offer yet. You need to follow up with these coaches, right? You need to continue the conversation, because if you don't do that, those relationships are going to fizzle. But at the same time, you have to give these schools a chance to miss you, right? If you don't get them to think about your kid on their own without you engaging with them, you have not won the battle yet. And so you have to have periods where you go dark and you don't contact them, but at the same time do it strategically so that in those dark periods, they're thinking about your kid. They're like, dang, I really need that player on my team. That's how you will separate yourself from the other 5 players that the coach is recruiting in your kid's position in grad class. So you're following up consistently, right? Which you should do. You should follow up consistently. Then what you're going to do is in one of those follow-ups, you're going to mention this. You're going to say, yeah, well, I'm currently talking to, and name off a few schools. And then you can say among others, like, yeah, there's others as well. And so you're going to mention in one of those follow-ups that you are talking to other schools, that there is competition. And then you're going to go dark, right? And now you're going to go dark. And so they're going to be wondering, dang, you know what? I didn't hear from that player. I normally do. And he said they were talking to a lot of other schools. Why haven't I heard from that player? Then they're going to start asking, dang, is he committed already? Like, I know he was talking to some other schools. What happened with that player? And now you're getting them to think about your kid without you having to do anything. Now, this only works if when you're following up consistently, you are conditioning them to hear from you. If you don't follow up consistently, then going dark is just going to let the relationship fizzle, right? Then it's going to go away and you're going to lose that opportunity. So going dark only works if you're following up consistently. But when you do this, you're giving the coach a chance to miss you. You're saying, I have lots of other options. Then you go dark and then you push them to think about you first. Boom, bingo. Okay. Drip out contextual information over time. I believe this is number 5. So here's the thing. When a lot of families email college coaches, they tend to commit what I call information overload. This is when you include way too much information in your initial email, right? A family will send an email to a coach and they'll include video, they'll include a recruiting profile, they'll include their coach's contact information, their grades, they'll include their scores, right? They're just including a billion different things. And it's too much information. And so really in that first email, you're just pointing the coach to video is really what you're prioritizing. That's not what this video is about, but that's really what you're trying to do. So when you focus on video, right, you're hopefully going to get more responses and start talking to more schools. And so for your dream school, you should be dripping out contextual information over time. Right? And so you're just sending out all those different things that we had talked about just a little bit at a time. And now you're building your value. If they thought that you were a 6 out of 10 at first, or your kid was, the goal is that over time, they grow that value, right? And so now they're like, oh, I learned a little bit more. I saw some more video. Now they're a 7 out of 10. Now they're an 8 out of 10. And over time, we push them to the point where they are 100% confident that your kid is the perfect player for their team. And that is where you get these scholarships, right? So here's what that information looks like, okay? You can send more video, right? They've already seen video. They liked the video. So you're going to send them more video, recent video, fresh video. You might send your coach contact information, right? So they can reach out to your coach, get a recommendation or a referral. You can send your transcripts. Hey, I'm good enough to get into your school. That's a big obstacle, right? Test scores, same thing. Social media handles, Instagram, Twitter, right? Any of those types of things, you can include those so that they can also see you on those platforms. You want coaches to find you on as many platforms and in as many places as possible. You can send your season schedule so that they know where to come watch you. Any awards that you get, right? If it's something noteworthy, you can keep that coach updated that you also got that award. And so the point is that we want to drip out contextual information over time. We're not overloading them in the first conversation and running out of ammunition, but rather we're storing it away for later to build the value over a longer period of time, okay? And the last thing here is don't tell the coach it's your dream school. This is pretty simple. Instead of you being lucky to have them, the vibe should be that they are lucky to get you, that you have all of these other options. And if they are lucky, they will get you. That's how it should be. It shouldn't be that this is your dream school. It should be that you are their dream recruit or your kid is. That is how you increase the perceived value of your kid. That's how you increase their stock so that coaches are like, dang, this is a really prized recruit. This is really the player that we need. And now you're playing a completely different game than all the other recruits that the coach is recruiting for your kid's specific position in grad class. So to recap, okay? Thing number 1 that you're going to do is you're going to generate interest from other schools for instant validation, right? We need to talk to as many schools as we can so that it makes us or your kid look more attractive, okay? Personalize follow-up emails and conversations. You don't need to personalize the first initial email, but you must personalize the follow-ups. That is going to give you the best possible chance, specifically with your dream school. Okay. Specific video related to what the coach mentions you should work on. If you go to a showcase and the coach says, hey, you really need to work on X, and they give you this one specific skill, then you need to go get video for that specific skill and send it to the coach so that you show that that is not a gap, that your kid is capable of doing that skill. Go dark periods to give them a chance to miss you. You want to follow up consistently, and eventually, as you condition them, you can go dark so that all of a sudden they go, wait, why haven't I heard from this player in a minute? I wonder if they've committed already. And now they're thinking about your kid without you having to engage. That is where you win. Drip out contextual information over time. Instead of committing information overload in the first email, you deliver just a little bit of information to hook the coach in, and then you provide more information and drip it out over a long period of time to take your kid from a 6 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10 where they're ready to give them a scholarship. And then the last thing is, don't tell the coach it's your dream school. Keep the ace in your back pocket. College coaches don't need to hear that. It is going to hurt your kid's stock value. So this is how you get a scholarship offer to your dream school. I hope it was helpful. If you want to, you can book a call with us down in the description below. We'll work to get you 5 interested schools in 90 days and get to a school that your kid is super happy about. And I will see you guys next time.